I think I'm live now. Welcome to the stream tonight, y'all. Live.
If you're making sure using mask.
There we go.
In Florida on.
Welcome back to the stream. If you didn't know, President Trump coming. Good old president. Impersonation. Can't hear.
Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Questions from the press, clearly. I just got here. I'm going to take that back a little bit. I had some audio issues earlier.
3 key.
So we're going to start this video off with President Trump's address to America tonight. Now, again, if you just got here, I started late, got off the road a little late, spent some time with the family this week. We're going to go ahead and rewatch President Trump's address to the United States, American people, the world. Then we'll tap into some other.
U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon.
8 a.m.
And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
That was President Trump's, again, address to America tonight about the bombing of 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Now, earlier you may have heard that Guam, they released the B-2 bombers. We kind of knew something was going to happen. And from other news and things that's happened, I've been with my family. So really it's been a fact of trying to catch up on what's happening in the world. But this is a pretty hard hit. I'm going to go to a Fox News special that aired roughly before the president spoke about this. But honestly, my question to the chat, first question of the night on the stream is this, did you vote for this war? Is this a war you voted for? Because for years, I thought the main war was on immigrants, right? And I do understand that Israel has a fight. They have to protect our ally in the Middle East. They need protection. And it's also like the homie that, you know, goes to the club and gets in fights your first year in college. We're consistently having to protect Israel. But is this a war that you signed up for? I thought it was immigration. I thought it was inflation. I thought it was the eggs. I thought it was everything else that drove people to say, hey, this is what the middle class needs. I thought it was, hey, we're not going to send our resources overseas to Ukraine and Russia and get involved in different wars. I thought that we were trying to address the issues at home. So let me know in the chat while we go to this next video. But my biggest thing is just trying to understand what we voted for. Because I didn't vote for this. Me personally. I didn't vote for a war. I didn't vote for more soldiers going out there. I voted for our veterans who served in Iraq, my friends in high school that decided to go serve and serve the last 20 plus years, some of them who didn't make it back, essentially saying, you know what, give them the benefits. Make sure our VA works for the people that have served, lost limbs. Make sure they have the benefits. Make sure they do what they need to do. I didn't vote for a new fresh blood to go fight in the Middle East, but let's get into this next video.
Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. The word coming from President Trump's Truth Social that the bombers were outside of Iranian airspace, that the payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo.
Hey,
as you look at the map there, I want to go live on the ground to Trey Yingst, chief foreign correspondent, about reaction there on the ground, what the Israelis are saying, plus what you think this fallout may be.
Yeah, Brett, good evening. This has been the talk of Israel for the past several days as the country waited to see if the Americans would get directly involved in the conflict. And even up in the last few hours, I was talking with current and former sources, trying to get an understanding of when this might happen. And at 1:55 local time, one source said rumors, Trump gave the word, supposed to be happening now. We were working on tracking it down, and the president taking to Truth Social to say the Americans did indeed strike 3 separate Iranian nuclear facilities, including the Fordow nuclear facility deep underground outside of the Iranian capital of Tehran. The bottom line here is that people are talking about enrichment. They understand that this decision was made because the Iranians were increasing their uranium enrichment capabilities and increasing the purity closer and closer to weapons-grade material. And the concern was that the Iranian regime was just weeks away from being able to build a nuclear bomb. We've seen over the past 9 days, the country has the ability to strike major population centers here in Israel with ballistic missiles. So you can imagine that having a nuclear warhead that could ultimately be attached to a ballistic missile would clearly be a direct threat to the Jewish state. And that was why the Israelis said that they made the decision to start these strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities and against top IRGC officials. And clearly tonight, President Trump ordering these strikes against the Iranian regime's nuclear program because there was no off-ramp for diplomacy at this point. There was that 60-day window that President Trump gave the Iranians to come to the table, 5 rounds of conversations, most of them taking place in Oman, with Steve Witkoff, President Trump's Middle East envoy, other top American officials meeting directly and indirectly with their Iranian counterparts, but the Iranians did not want to finish a deal. And ultimately, the decision was made by Israel to launch this operation that has led to a war developing between the two countries. And then again, tonight, the Americans getting directly involved, launching these strikes with those bombers over Iranian territory. We will certainly learn more information as daylight comes tomorrow in the region. But the bottom line here is that a decision was made that will change the reality of the current war between Israel and Iran and possibly create a scenario where the Iranians really have no other option than to give in, because the president has hit them so hard with these strikes, and the Israelis are continuing to take out their top military leadership, that the country is in a state of disarray. And so the bottom line here is that these strikes tonight show not only solidarity with the American ally in the Middle East, Israel, but also they show that the region is at a crossroads here. There are clear decisions that will have to be made by the regime officials that are still alive and by the country's supreme leader and the country's president, Masoud Pezeshkian. And so certainly more hours ahead, we'll learn that information. But again, the bottom line tonight is that the decision was made by President Trump to take out, in effect, these nuclear facilities that the Iranians were using to enrich uranium closer and closer to weapons-grade material. You might remember back during the nuclear deal that President Trump pulled out of in 2018, the Iranians were enriching uranium at 3.67%. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, they were enriching uranium close to 60% purity, getting very, very close to a weapons-grade purity, which would give them the component that they would need to create a nuclear weapon. And so this is a historic moment in the Middle East tonight, and again, an opportunity for the region, as the president laid out in his statement, for peace in the future, because this is a region that understands peace through strength. Brett?
I still don't know if this is what MAGA supports. I read that in the comments as well. I don't know if this is what, even though we're not sending troops, cool. I think it's a fact of the retaliation. Because even though their bombs may not be able to get across the Atlantic to get to America, they get still hit other areas of the U.S. base. So it kind of puts everything on. I'm not wishing any harm. I'm praying for the best. But this isn't what America signed up for. This isn't what I voted for. Again, it's not that. I'm going to go to another one. We're skipping through a little bit, just trying to get at least a breakdown of what I think, not only the implications of the Iran attack, CBS News featured there, but also who are Iran's allies. who may actually, who do we have to be worried about? Because this is not, again, what people go for. We're going to get to some more for my conservative friends. I'm going to make sure get some conservative thoughts on this. I'm also going to get to, didn't see it yet, honestly, only excerpts, Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz. Because now we've basically bombed Iran. We have. And we're to a point of saying, all right, cool, we bombed. But who are your allies? And then the other part, too. What did we really sign up for? Because I think it was 77% of people said they didn't vote for this. Last I checked the poll, but I'm about to close that poll out in about 3 minutes. Let's check this out while we're here.
Continuing to follow breaking news out of the Middle East. Right now, President Trump announced the U.S. has attacked 3 nuclear sites in Iran. In a post on Truth Social, he called the attack successful and says the planes are now outside of Iranian airspace. Trump went on to write, quote, "Now is the time for peace." Mr. Trump says he will address the nation from the White House at 10 p.m. Eastern time, which is just about 30 minutes from now. Sources tell CBS News the U.S. reached out to Iran today and said these strikes are the only ones that the U.S. has planned. For more on this breaking news story, let's bring in CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd on the phone with us. Samantha.
Good evening.
Tell us what the significance is of an attack like this by the U.S. in the Middle East.
Well, at this juncture, the primary concern for the president and his national security team are the safety and security of Americans in the region, around the world, and that includes here in the homeland. When I was at the Department of Homeland Security, we were deeply aware of Iran's capabilities to inspire and direct attacks against U.S. assets. That's through their vast network of proxies, including individuals here in the United States. So right now, law enforcement and intelligence professionals are on heightened alert for any indication of reprisal attacks against Americans here in the homeland or U.S. assets overseas.
We bring in now Lucas.
That includes military installations in the Middle East, as well as American tourists and those living abroad as well. The significance of the attacks is, in the first instance, going to come down to whether the attacks were successful, whether these attacks actually destroyed the ability for Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan to function. If bunker buster bombs were used, I think it is quite likely the attacks were successful. So right now, again, the president and his national security team should be reviewing any threats to Americans as a result of these strikes and trying to ascertain whether they were successful.
On Truth Social, the president did indicate that the strikes were successful. That's what he said. We'll hear more from him once again in less than 30 minutes. But what kind of response, we can go into this a little bit deeper, are we expecting from Iran, and how quickly could we see this actually take place?
Well, the United States has already taken precautionary measures to try to mitigate any kind of reprisal. That includes dispersing U.S. military assets in the region so that they're not all concentrated at particular bases. It also includes moving additional offensive assets to the region in the event that Iran tries to act and to try to deter Iran from taking more aggressive action. We've moved an additional carrier strike group and fighter squadron, among other assets. U.S. bases are certainly at risk, as well as the hundreds of thousands of Americans living in the region. So we could expect Iran to unleash missiles at U.S. bases in the Middle East. Iran has a significant network of proxies all around the world that it could activate against Americans. And Iran also has very advanced cyber capabilities that it could leverage if it so chooses.
Sam, we know that plans have been set in place to protect or replace Iranian. I'm looking right now. We do have the map up of the 3 areas that were hit. Let's go into that.
President
first.
Trump
Let's
says
talk about the areas that where the U.S. struck in terms of the 3 sites that they believe have nuclear capabilities.
Sure. So they are Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. The first 2 are uranium enrichment centers. Fordo, the site there, is very deep inside of a mountain. Natanz was struck earlier this month by Israel. And again, these are 2 uranium enrichment centers. The third site, Isfahan, is where we believe the Iranians are keeping most of its highly enriched uranium. If these attacks were successful, the United States would have destroyed Iran's ability to both enrich uranium and have destroyed a significant amount of its almost bomb-grade material.
And how badly have they been hit, do we know for sure? Is there any indication in terms of how close they are to populated areas and what's happened in that region as a whole?
Well, we don't yet know how successful these attacks were, but again, if the bunker buster bomb known as the massive ordnance penetrator was used, I do think that there is a strong chance that they were successful. These sites are located not directly within a major city. Isfahan actually is a very populated center, actually, so we don't yet know if there were civilian casualties. Certainly individuals working at these facilities would have been impacted by these massive bombs, but we have to wait for the battleground assessment.
What do we know about plans to protect or replace Iranian leaders? What do we know about those talks?
Well, we understand that the Israelis may have had the capability to assassinate the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, who ultimately is a key decision maker on whether to break out to a nuclear weapon, and who will ultimately give a signal as to whether, for example, Iranian proxies should be activated. President Trump reportedly told Prime Minister Netanyahu not to assassinate Khamenei. Later, President Trump himself said that the United States had the capability to assassinate Khamenei. We don't know if that's true, but he did make that statement.
That's kind of wild. Hold on, let me pause that for just the real in me. I'm gonna go to something else from this. It's very informative. If you know you can assassinate a world leader, you don't think they get the same news that you read? And I don't know. I had to get more of the logo in. I don't know, because talking to some friends that are Israeli, Middle Eastern as well, they were saying, the Iranian people, if they could eliminate the regime that's in control of everything, the Iranian people would be better. It would be the entire Middle East. But I'm not sure that's 100% of what's happening here. But at the same time, it's like, damn, if you know that they want to take you out, would you think that maybe bombing them and taking them out would have maybe solved? Or do you think it would just cause uprising, kind of like the Taliban? Because it seems like in my lifetime, at least, it's been ISIS, Taliban, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Castro. That's just ones I could think of off the top of my head. Castro was, of course, Cuba, right? More local. However, it's always been like something new. That's just what I just don't understand in my lifetime for it, right? I'm not a world history buff, I'm not a world war buff, but it's like it's something. And all of a sudden, it's like the Taliban's good because the Taliban from I just don't understand where we are as a country. I stand with Israel. The Iranians don't want war. Like that's the part where I'm trying to figure out: is it's taking out, or is it actually because we've seen this? The CIA will go take over a government, put trans, all the other stuff. I don't understand.
That the United States and Israel are focused on regime change, although President Trump has indicated that he's focused on the nuclear program and not on regime
Palestine,
change.
free Iran, free everybody, man.
Israel obviously has been key in all of this. Has Israel issued any type of official response to these U.S. strikes?
Israel will, and Prime Minister Netanyahu will likely be very pleased that President Trump decided to take this action. Dating back to my time in the Obama administration, Prime Minister Netanyahu has asked U.S. presidents to take exactly this type of action. So certainly Israel will issue perhaps celebratory, if not highly positive statements about this military action by the United States.
Sam, what can you tell us about the payload actually used in this attack, in these strikes?
This particular bomb that we keep talking about, the massive ordnance penetrator MOP, is a 30,000-pound bomb and is like anything else in the world. Various countries have asked us for it throughout the history of this bomb, but we've kept it for ourselves, and it was really the one munition that had the capability to strike deep within the mountain facility at Fordo.
This decision came after Israel was attacking Iran, right? And what was Israel's aim during its attacks on Iran?
Israel was focused on the same thing sensibly as President Trump, which is degrading Iran's ability to obtain a nuclear weapon. There were very deep concerns that Iran was closer to a nuclear weapon than ever before, based on the stockpile of highly enriched uranium. Israel did expand its strikes beyond just nuclear facilities, however, and killing nuclear scientists. Israel attacked military installations as well as some energy infrastructure. So Israel, at least, was more focused on putting pressure on Iran more broadly than the United States. President Trump kept his military strikes to nuclear facilities.
I'm going to stop it here in a second. Beginning of my lifetime, we've been at war with Iraq. We've been at war with Afghanistan. I want to say something happened in the past lifetime. Nothing in Turkey. Syria, yes. It's always Saudi Arabia, yes. So it just seems like a domino. You know what I'm saying? Because just in my lifetime, we've gone from here to here, Guam and here, and not what we voted. I'm not taking a position. It's unfortunate what's happening. Because we still have issues, because just last week they were rioting in Houston, New Jersey. They were having the No Kings protest on last Saturday, right before Father's Day. They had no. I'm sitting here like, where's Dr. King? Because the liberal lilies were out here telling you that they want to know king. Guess what? Donald Trump's not the king, but he just used the authority, policy to make something happen. And tomorrow, 8 a.m., we're going to learn more. And guess what? I plan on streaming. So I may not be on the stream too long tonight. I'm going to go with my gaming channel, Lobbyist Gamer. I'll be gaming there after this stream. But I just don't understand. Let me finish this up. I have a quote from the UN chief. Actually, I'm going to pause it here. Go to the quote from the. Now, hold on. Y'all can see. Straighten it up. Oh, Guterres. I am gravely alarmed by the use of force in the United States against Iran today. Dangerous escalation in a region already on direct threat to international peace. The growing risk that this conflict could rapidly get out of control with the catastrophic consequences for civilians, the region, and the world. Bigger than the U.S. Because my friends from Israel have told me they're kind of used to the missiles. Some rockets are coming short, some are becoming strong, but the uranium and the power that they don't want them. Now the UN's involved. Got more updates. Great. Paul Adibi, the president of the National Iranian American Council, U.S. strikes on Iran, underscored Trump's pledge to avoid military interference. One word wars, dubbed America First, was false. Wow. America First, false? U.S. bear the consequence. Member of the group's political bureau, brief warning to the U.S. social media post. Washington must bear the consequence. Al Jazeera. I know some of y'all. But I will go for other people. Hannity. I know y'all love it. Like the page if you like Hannity. If you don't like Hannity, please like. I'm still a Democrat. I just like to hear what both sides got to say. I'm still waiting on CNN to have something good to say that I can plug in here. We'll get this. We'll have it there. I just don't do MSN. May do Rachel Maddow. You got to hear what everybody. Still haven't seen the Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz situation. That whole interview. We're going to get to that. Let me get to Sean Hannity, but before we get there, if it's your first time here, I'm a hip-hop lobbyist. I'm a professional lobbyist. I've been doing it for 15 years. I'm not going to get into my resume, this stuff, because Didi knows it. On my minds. I'm going to get through to my good and faithfuls. If you've been here before, thank you for tapping back. I apologize. It's been like a Father's Day. Had a weekend with the family. But got to catch up on content. And on top of that, making a better quality. If it's your first time, you're enjoying it so far, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because in April, we have 347 followers. We've 10x that. 2.5 months? Just by live streaming. No real videos, just, building conversation, building engagement with it. I appreciate y'all tapping in. Let's get into this Hannity piece. Then we're going to go from there.
We bring in now Lucas Tomlinson. He is live outside the White House tonight. Lucas, I'm sure probably a lot of activity in there.
There's no question, Sean. We're about 45 minutes away from President Trump addressing the nation from the White House after those unprecedented strikes against Iran's nuclear enrichment sites, 3 in all in Isfahan, Fordo, and Natanz. And you mentioned the 6 bunker-busting bombs, Sean, that the president told you about. That means 3 B-2 bombers were involved in the strikes tonight because each B-2 bomber can only carry 2 of those 15-ton bunker-busting bombs. So that means 3 B-2 bombers were involved. And as we heard from Jennifer's reporting, it's likely deception was involved. Everyone woke up this morning to chatter about these 6 B-2 bombers flying west over the Pacific, refueling over Hawaii at about 11 p.m. But it's clear now that those were decoys and that another flight of B-2s flew east, likely 3 of them. When you said 6 bunker-busting bombs were dropped, that flight that went east went to the target and annihilated Fordo, as we're hearing, likely destroying Iran's nuclear enrichment program. As you mentioned, for 11 years, President Trump has made clear that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. That was his red line, and tonight he enforced it. You mentioned the 30 Tomahawks fired from submarines. Of course, an Ohio-class guided missile submarine, the old Ohio-class ballistic missile subs that were converted, Sean, each one carries 154 Tomahawks, so it's likely the strike came from there. Not sure if USS Georgia or Florida is patrolling in the area, but those are converted Ohio-class boats. Of course, attack submarines typically carry Virginia-class, LA-class attack boats carry about a dozen Tomahawk cruise missiles. So it could have been a pair of attack submarines, or most likely one of those converted Ohio-class guided missile submarines that took out that site. What's notable, Sean, is today President Trump had 3 opportunities to address the press. He declined each time. Perhaps a signal, looking back, that something was up. And of course, he always speaks to the press. And also, let's not forget, just a few days ago on Thursday in the White House, Caroline Leavitt at the podium said she had a message from President Trump. She said that a decision on Iran will be made within 2 weeks. And now it is very clear. There's a lot of emphasis on the word within, because we're now just 2 days since that statement. And this unprecedented strike was made against Iran, knocking out Iran's nuclear sites, likely setting back that program for years, decades, or perhaps ever.
And Lucas, we got to remember, too, it was only 24 hours after the president made that statement that the Iranians said they would not have a negotiation at all. So they gave their answer almost immediately.
Hey, C3, hold on.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to...
Hold on. C3, I just saw the contribution. I appreciate the support, my brother. Thank you for supporting the channel, page, and the community wholeheartedly. Video I saw. I didn't get to this yet. In this video, I guess Trump was disagreeing with Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I'm unfamiliar with it. I know Tulsi, on our last stream, talked about impact nuclear weapons could have on communities, Hiroshima. I think it was so late that night, I totally forgot Pearl Harbor happened for Hiroshima. It was like 2:30 in the morning. We were exhausted. I was exhausted. But do you think this could play a role in early? Because I do kind of, we're backed into this because of, and I'm not saying we wouldn't have negotiated Iran from having nuclear weapons. I think it happened fast. That's my thing, because Trump has said for weeks, he negotiate, bring them to the table. We've had to come. We've heard him. He said, "Hey, straight up, let's start negotiating." But then this happened, and I think if you ever play spades, you ever play on the moves, first of all, wait a minute, I didn't plan on you moving your quick. You know what I'm saying? I didn't expect you to pull out the big joker. I didn't expect you to run play action first play. I'm thinking it's an actual one. And guess what? My safety dived in, and guess what? You beat me on the post. All of a sudden, you're doing something that I didn't expect. Where we are as Americans, because again, 70% of y'all said didn't vote for this. 70% of people who were here said they 400. Realistically, 100 people said. Let me know where you're tapping in from. Right? I'm in Florida. Let me know if you're tapping in on cities and the city of Memphis, right? Other places. Let me know who you're tapping in, because out of all of them, I have at least scientific number. 67, 70. Some MAGA, some. I assume that's what you walk with your here. Let's check out this.
President Trump says 2 weeks is the maximum amount of time he will wait before deciding if the U.S. military will strike Iran with bombs. That depends, though. He could make up his mind a little bit sooner. The president also claimed his director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is, quote, wrong to claim that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. And Trump appeared to dismiss Europe's efforts to engage diplomatically with Iran.
Can you hear me now?
Did the Europeans help at all in talking with the Iranians?
No, they didn't help. No. Iran doesn't want to speak to Europe. They want to speak to us.
Let's get straight to CNN's chief White House correspondent, Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, there's about 15 different ways I can take this in terms of most important things that we heard from the president. But I actually want to start with Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, because I believe she just responded a short time ago. What's the dynamic there?
Hold on.
Yeah, this is really.
I don't know what's going on. The audio is real choppy. Hold on. I don't know what's happening. Give me 1 second. Hold on, y'all. Happening? Is it still bad? Is it? Yeah, it's horrible. I'm gonna restart the stream. It's horrible. Por favor. I'll restart my computer. I'll be back. All right. Let me see if it's better now. Mic check. Hold on, let me hear. Is it still choppy? Choppy. Sounds choppy still. It's still cutting up. All right, I'm gonna cut it off. I appreciate y'all. I'm out, man.